What's up YouTube, and welcome to another draw along with me. Today's design is this couple on a bridge underneath the beaming sun. As always, there's a link in the description down below so you'll be able to download the palette and follow along with the exact same colours that I use. If you're new here, I post tutorials every week, so if you'd like a Procreate tutorial to follow along with, hit that subscribe button down below and turn on the bell so you're notified about all my new videos. And as always, if you like the video, hit the like button down below. It helps the channel out an awful lot and sends my videos out to more people. Also, big shout out to my Patreons. I'll leave the link down below if anybody's interested in taking a look at my Patreon account. And with that said, let's get started. And we're going to come up to the plus icon in the top right hand corner and we're going to create a new canvas here. And typically my canvas sizes are 2500 by 2500 and the DPI is set to 300. Now you do get a certain amount of layers depending on the DPI. Now the DPI means that if you came to print this off, the higher the DPI, the better the quality. Now depending on what iPad you have and depending on how many layers we go for in this design, you may want to change that DPI and make it a little bit less. But 81 should easily be enough for me on my iPad, but your layer count will vary depending on your iPad. But don't worry, you can change that at any time in the design from the settings. So we'll create our new canvas, and if you've downloaded the palette in the description, you should have this palette and this selection of green colors. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to our layers and our background color. I'm going to change that to the dark green top row, first one, and that's our base color for the design. And then what we're going to do, we're going to go to our brush library, we're going to select calligraphy, and we're going to use the monoline option. Now with this monoline option selected on layer 1, we're going to go to our colours and we're going to select the lightest one, which is the far right hand side of our colours, just here. And on our screen, we're simply going to draw a circle in the middle somewhat. Hold your pen at the end to create an ellipse, but if you pop your finger on the screen, you'll be able to create a perfect circle and scale up and down as you wish. Something roughly around about that size is good. You can drag and drop your colour in. And then what we can do is, with the cursor selected and uniform, make sure as always that snapping is turned on. We're going to just drag that into the center of the canvas and you'll get the orange lines to let you know it's smack bang in the middle. So what we're going to do now to get started is we're going to go to our layers and we're going to create a new layer and tap on that layer to make it a clipping mask. Then we're going to go to our colors and I'm going to simply select this green here, so the second one in on the top row. This is just a temporary color potentially, just so we can fill in the shapes that we need to get started. And using the monoline brush, what we're going to do is we're going to draw a straight line lower than halfway, so roughly around about 2/3 down, 1/3 up, and just draw a straight line across. Don't worry about your brush size, it doesn't matter for now. And then pop your finger on the screen to get a perfectly straight line. And then what we need to do is from our end point go all the way around and meet our start point, and then drag and drop the color in like so. So this is going to act as sort of the floor and where the water will end up, and then we're going to draw in the bridge and all the extra layers in front of it. So pinching in a little bit, what we're going to do is create another new layer and also make sure that that is a clipping mask. And we're going to drag that layer underneath our floor that we just created here. And we're going to go to our colors and select the first color of our palette, top row. And let's reduce our brush size down to roughly 10%. That will do for the moment. So what we're going to do now is just draw an ellipse on the screen. So what you're going to want to do is just draw an ellipse like that and hold your pen at the end. And if you pop your finger on the screen, it will just make it so that you can go in increments and make sure it's perfectly sort of horizontal and flat. And we want to create something roughly around about that size. And now what we can do is just go to the cursor icon and just stretch that out a little bit more, because this is going to be the arch for our bridge. So I'm actually going to make that a little bit bigger, and you can position it in the middle of the screen such as there, so you can get an idea as to where this is all going to sit and rest. So I'm going to actually scale mine down a little bit more until I roughly get something around about that mark there. And now on the same layer, I'm going to go to my actions, I'm going to go to canvas, edit drawing guide, and I'm going to select the option here of symmetry and make sure it's vertical straight down the middle of my canvas. And what we're going to use this for is this is going to be for the top of the arch for the bridge as well, so we can draw it in and make sure it's perfectly nice and symmetrical. So what we're going to do is I'm going to rotate my canvas just so it's a little bit easy for myself, And now what I want to do is just create a little arch sort of flick up towards the center. Now we want to just sort of bear in mind the bend of the arch that we've just created, and something along those lines is pretty good. And we can just go from the end here and go down and link up our shape, but we can then drag and drop our color in, and we've got our nice bridge arch. And then what we can do is, with the drawing guide still turned on, we can just add some nice columns on either side, so some sort of brickwork. So we'll increase that line and make that slightly taller, and we can pop our finger on the screen to make sure it's perfectly nice and straight. And then if we zoom in, I've rotated my canvas again just so I can get the angle correct. Just going to drag out the top of the column, or roughly something like that, and then I can rotate back, and then from that point go down, pop my finger on the screen to make sure it's nice and straight, and then link that shape up again. So we're basically creating a little rect. And now that's going to act as our bridge for the design. We can then add in a little 3D element to it. So we're going to grab our layers and we're going to swipe that to the left and hit duplicate. And with the bottom one selected out of the two, we're going to go to our colors and select the second color and just drag and drop that in. Now you won't see it because it's in behind, but what we're going to do is we're going to go to our cursor, we're going to go to uniform, and we're just going to scale that down ever so slightly and then position that slightly further back than what we had. Now what that will do is that will give us the two columns for either side of the bridge, and also a nice little under part depending on your arch for your design. And now we've got our nice bridge ready to go. We can put our couple on at the top here. Now what we want to do is, towards the bottom half of this design in this section here, is we want to draw in the sort of edge of the water. Now we're going to create a new layer above this green darker section down here. I'm going to tap on that and also make sure it's a clipping mask. Then we're going to go to our colors and select the first color in the palette, which again is this darker green, so it matches up to the background. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to draw in some sort of squiggly lines like so, which is just where our shore is for the water coming through under the arch and down towards us at the bottom of the design. And then with that layer still selected, let's go straight across. Now hold your pen at the end as well to get a perfectly straight line. You want to try and match this dark green line up to the original green that we've got underneath it, so something like that. And then as always, go all the way around and link up to your original point and drag and drop the color in. And then we've got our nice shore down here on either side where the water will now come straight through. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our layers, and underneath our bridge 2 layers, so we can basically tap on the background circle and hit the plus icon. We're going to go to our colors and we're going to select the second green again, because this is what we're going to use for this particular hill. And what we're going to do is we're going to start sort of looking at the line that we created for our sort of beds down here. We kind of want to angle it inwards even more so. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to try and create some sort of shape like that, and then squiggle up towards the top to create some sort of hillside, and then drag and drop the color into that. Now we don't want the drawing guide on because we're going to create some unidentical hills on either side. But what you can gauge from that is the water's now sort of making its way down the lines that we've created for the water line. And for this one, we'll do the same. So maybe just a nice rounded bank up into some sort of hill up here, like so. And then drag and drop that color in as well. And what we'll do is we'll just continue to make our way back now with the other hills in the background. So we're going to repeat sort of the process again. Going to tap on the original base circle and hit the plus icon. We're going to go to our colors and we're going to select the third color in from the left hand side now for this green. And for this one, we could end up maybe just continuing on that line like so, and then create our new hill, and experiment with how bumpy or lumpy you want to make it, and go all the way around until you meet where you started with your line, and then drag and drop that color in like so. And now you can really get an eye for that line of where we're sending the water. But you don't have to do that every time. So if I move to the hill on this side, I could leave a little gap and then sort of repeat quite similarly to how this side is set up, and go all the way around and meet up to my original point. So this side's nice and flush, or you can do it like this side like where you have lots of little hills making their way in towards the water. It's not a smooth line. Now neither way is wrong, but what I'm going to do is undo the one I've done on the left hand side and just match up to the one I've done on the right. And I'm going to just make my way further down the waterbed and go all the way up to the edge, and then link all the way around to my start point and drag and drop the colour in. So I've got somewhat of a similar pattern now, but just making sure that those lines are more close to one another. So by all means, I love it when everybody experiments with their own take on it. So by all means, you know, decide how you want your sort of water edge to be. So now we're going to go to our colours again, and we're going to select the fourth green in the design, and this will be our final set of hills. So fourth green on the top row, and we're going to want to repeat the process again. So tap on the base circle and create a new layer. And from here, let's zoom in one more time. Now this one I'll slightly do a little bit different, but we're also going to hide it behind the bridge anyway, so it's not too much of a big deal with regards to the bed. And then link all the way up and drag and drop the colour in one more time. And now we've got our rolling hills in the background for that one. We can then also do the same on this side. So for this side, I'm going to sort of wrap around, come inside a little bit more, and then just drag and make this one relatively smooth, and drag that like so. And now I've got a nice little change depending on, you know, where the water's going and which set of hills we're looking at. Now what we're going to do is, this layer that we created here in the background for the water was initially just a guide for where we'll position the bridge. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our layers, and this is the layer for that, and we're going to swipe that to the left and hit delete. Now you'll start to see a little bit of the excess from the original eclipses that we created. That's not a problem. We can then go to our layers. We're going to go to the eraser, and we're going to select the option of calligraphy, and we're going to swipe that up to 100%. And if I zoom in, we can start to just erase that line like so, and it should match up straight into the middle like so. And we're going to do the same for the layer of the slightly lighter green. So just erase into that corner and then get rid of all the excess. And now what we can do is go to our layers. Let's go to the base layer and create one new layer. And let's select white just for this one, so we can easily see the difference between the water and the sky. So let's select white by double tapping in the top left hand corner of our color disc. And with the monoline brush selected, we don't need to be too neat with this. We literally just need to draw a sort of big circle around here and link up, and we should be able to drag and drop our color in like so, because the bridge and the hills act as a sort of mask, so we don't need to be too neat with that. We can simply just create a layer that's sort of hidden underneath our bridge and underneath our other little layers as well. So now when I zoom out, we've got our nice water river coming down the center here, and we can then start to work on the sky in the background as well. So let's go to our layers again. Let's create a new layer from the base layer, so create a new one. And we're going to draw a circle in the sky with white still selected. Hold your pen at the end and also pop your finger on the screen to get a perfect circle. And then drag and drop the color in like so. And then let's position that on that orange line straight down the middle, roughly around about that mark there. Now while we're working on the sky, let's add in the glow for this sun as well. So we can swipe that to the left and hit duplicate. And on the second layer out of the two that we just created, we're going to want to go up to our adjustments. We're going to go to Gaussian blur and select the option of layer. We're going to swipe that from left to right, and we're going to go roughly up to about 15–16% so that we get a nice glow, and just tap on the adjustments again to finish that. And now we've got a lovely little glow in the sky for our sun. And now what we'll also do is finish the sky color in as well with the correct color. So we're going to go to our base layer again, and what we can do is we can tap on that layer and use the option of alpha lock. And then we're going to go to our brush library, and we're going to go to the airbrushing section and select soft brush. And let's make mine roughly about 40%, maybe go a bit smaller than that. Let's go actually down to roughly about 25. And then with our colors all here on the right hand side, we're going to use just 3 of them. We're going to start with the slightly brighter green in the middle, which is this green, so the fourth one in from the left. And we're going to just swipe from left to right towards the top portion of the sky, leaving a little bit of the original color underneath. And then we're going to go to our colors and also select the darker green. So let's use the first green, but you want to be very gentle with this green, because if you press too hard, you will end up with the same green as the background as well. And just stroking that from left to right, the lighter you press with your pencil, you get a nice little soft glow to it. And then we're going to go to our adjustments and use the Gaussian blur again for the layer, and just swipe that from left to right, and that will just blend our colors in and create a nice gradient between the two. Now the final touch for the sky is actually to add in the little clouds that I drew. So we're going to go to our layers, and let's go right to the very top and create one new layer at the top. And let's go to our brush library, and under calligraphy, you want to scroll down towards the bottom and select the option of script. And we've done this previously in another design, so I'm going to just zoom in on this left hand side, but I'll explain it regardless. With my brush size, let's go for 10% and just see how that comes out. So I like to create a swiped in line, so nice and horizontal, and that's my guide for my cloud. And essentially I start at the tip over here, and then pressing nice and hard and creating some squiggles, and then pressing lighter. That's then the outline, and if I link that all up, I can drag and drop my color in, and then that's my cloud. Now I like to repeat that process, but very close to it underneath, and just create some little bumps and lumps like so, and then drag and drop the color in into the space. And now we've got one cloud on the left hand side like that. And we're just going to repeat that for the left hand side and the right hand side, and I think we're going to roughly add about 4 different clouds in here. So again, I'm going to create a swipe. Let's press a bit harder so we get a solid line like that. And then from one side, you can just create some nice bumps and lumps, because this script brush is a pressure brush. The harder you press, you get a slightly thicker, darker line. And so you can end up with something that's like slightly dependent on your pressure. So I'm happy with that cloud there. Now what you'll notice, I didn't repeat the sort of effect underneath on that one. I just created some extra little wobbles in there. And let's come up to our right hand side, and again, let's create a little swipe. So you'll notice midway through that I made my brush size a little bit bigger, roughly about 17%, just so I can get some extra pressure when I squeeze quite hard by pressing the pen down. Now I'm not too happy with that line, so let's redo that and go all the way down to the end point. Nice little bumps and lumps. And again, I think for this one, I'll just create some lumps underneath, like so. But then for this side, I'll repeat the process that I did over here. So let's create a nice swiped in line, like so. And just create some nice bumps and lumps. And repeat the process. Except I'm gonna make a bit more of a gap between these two. But let's make this one nice and big. And I'm just going to colour that in very quickly like so. Maybe add some bumps and lumps towards the base of that one. But ultimately now we've got our clouds in the sky for our design. So now let's work on the water down here and just add the right colours in, as well as some nice reflections from the sun. So we're going to go to our layers and find the water layer that we created, which is this one here. And on this layer, we're going to tap on it and use the option of alpha lock. And now we're going to reflect essentially the same colours that we had in the sky, but in the water, except we'll make sure this is nice and light. So now what we're going to do is work on the water down here. So we're going to go to our layers, and we are going to tap on our water and make sure we turn on alpha lock, which alpha lock means that we can only paint within the boundaries of this particular space that we've created. And we're going to essentially do the same process, but with one colour to the right from what we did on the sky. So the first colour we started with was this green in the middle. I'm going to move one to the right and select this green here. And with the soft airbrush, I'm going to stroke from left to right, like so, making sure towards the bottom it is nice and full of green, but towards the top we leave a little bit of that white just to come through right from the edge up there. And then we're going to go to our colours and select then the second in from the left for this green. And then again on this sort of edge down here, just very lightly, just add in some more of that green, like so. And as always, you can go up to your adjustments, go to Gaussian blur and layer, and just blend that out if you want to get a nice, perfectly clean transition between the two. Now that's looking pretty good. What we'll do is though, we'll create one new layer above that, and I'm going to go to my colors, and I'm going to select the very pale green on the right hand side of all our colors. And with the soft airbrush still selected, let's reduce the brush size down to roughly 15%. And we're just going to stroke in the middle, backwards and forwards in sort of a zigzaggy motion, just so that we can add in some sort of highlights from the sun, so we get a nice reflection down. So you can see in this area here especially the sort of changes I've made. And now what we're going to want to do is just add some extra nice little ripples in the water here. We could add it on this layer, but I'm going to create a new one just so we've got some adjustments if we want to. So let's create a new layer, and let's make sure we select white by double tapping in the top left hand corner still. And then let's go to calligraphy, and with the script brush selected, let's reduce that brush size down to 10%. And let me just angle my canvas. We're just going to create some sort of lines like this across in a horizontal sort of fashion until we get right up to the top. So try and position them so they're slightly far apart. You can press a little bit harder as well in certain areas, but up here we're just going to create some sort of very light ones like that, and then we can join up to the lines that we created down here. And all we're doing is just adding in the little reflections from the sun that's hitting the water's edge. And down here we could press like really hard if we wanted to, and just create some much harder sort of bolder shapes. Sorry. And go back in and maybe just enhance some of those if we wanted to, like that. Something like that is ideal, and I'm just going to quickly rotate this because of the angle I was drawing at. So let's rotate that like that. And then with that layer selected, let's go to the layer options and just lower the opacity down to roughly around about, let's go down to roughly 26%. So we get a little bit of that sort of glimmer on the water, but not enough that it's distracting from the rest of it. Now the only thing I would also like to do is add in a little flip of this bridge and blur it out, so we've got a nice little shadow in there as well. So let's go to our layers. Let's find that top archway here and turn it on and off just to be sure. Let's swipe that to the left and hit duplicate. And now position it in our layers slightly further down, but just above the sort of white ripples that we just created. And let's go to our cursor, and then let's select the option of flip vertical, and then we can drag that down roughly into position, something like that. So if I zoom in, you can see I've kept the arch quite close to the original one, like so. And we've got two options. You could either lower the opacity down like so, so we get a nice clean sort of reflection, or we could then also go to our Gaussian blur again under adjustments and blur that out ever so slightly. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to blur mine out as well as lower the opacity, so down to 6.3% on the blur, but we just get a nice sort of casted reflection of the shadow into the water as well. So now while we're working on shadows for this one here, let's continue to add some more in just round the edge of the bed here as well. So continuing on that layer, let's go to our brush library and select airbrushing again and the soft brush, and reduce the brush size right down to roughly about 5%. And we want to just change our brush color to the dark green here, so it matches up to the bridge reflection that we just created. And we just want to just draw in some little shadows very lightly just towards the edge of the water bed here, making our way all the way down as well. Something roughly around about those marks is pretty good. And what that does is that just brings the water closer to the edges of the design, as well as sort of blurs that line out of that solid shape there. And then the final touches is we're just going to add some light shading and highlights into either one of the set of these hills, and we're going to add our couple on the bridge as well. So we're going to go to our layers and let's find the back set of hills by turning the layer on and off. I'm going to tap on that layer and select the option of alpha lock, and continuing with the brush color that we've already got for the dark green. And then what we want to do is just increase our brush size ever so slightly up to roughly about 7%, and in a circular motion just add in a little shadow in behind the hills there. And likewise, let's zoom in on this side here and do exactly the same, like so. And then what we can also do is add in some highlights from the sun as well. So let's go to our colors and double tap in the top left hand corner to select white. And let's just stroke the inside. I'm just going to add some highlights to the inside edge of this hill by just stroking quite lightly on the inner area. Likewise up here too. And then let's continue that fashion for all the other ones backwards as well. So let's go to the next set of hills behind and turn it on and off quickly, and then tap on that and select alpha lock. And we can just add in our highlights to start with while we're already on that color. So let's just sort of stroke in a circular fashion the sort of inside edge, and anywhere you think the sun will just kiss ever so slightly. And then let's go back to our colors and select our shading color, which is the first color in the palette, and just add in that little bit in behind the hill, like so, and then likewise down here too. And we'll repeat that finally for the last one here as well. So let's find that layer, turn it on and off to be sure, tap on it to select alpha lock, and then while we've got our shading selected, just stroke that sort of outside edge and the bottom edge, try not to do too much. And likewise, let's do the same on this side too, like so. And let's grab white by double tapping in the top left hand corner, and again just stroke that edge where the sun would kiss, and likewise just all the way across here, like so. Future Joel here. Be sure to create a new layer before you progress now with the adding of the couple onto the design. Now back to past Joel. And if you manage to download the brush in the description that I've mocked up for you, you'll be able to go to your brushes, and typically under imported you'll find it, and you'll be able to go to our colors and select then the dark green so it matches the bridge, and simply tap on the screen. And then for me, I'll just need to rotate that 45 degrees twice and just scale them down until they fit on my bridge, like so. So roughly around about, let's make them a bit smaller, roughly around about that much. And then if we go up to our spanner and turn off the drawing guide, and then we pinch out with 2 fingers, we've got our finished design for today's tutorial. Now, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, drop a like down below. It helps the channel out an awful lot and sends my videos out to more people. If you're interested in having a weekly Procreate tutorial to follow along with, hit the subscribe button down below and turn on the bell so you're notified about all my new videos. Also, big shout out to my Patreons. I'll leave the link down below if anybody's interested in taking a look at my Patreon account. As always, share your designs with me on Instagram. I love seeing your designs and all the little touches that you apply in your own flavour. Links to both my Instagram and TikTok are in the description down below. And that's it for today, so I'll see you in the next one.